design is something to be proud of.
I think it's too easy during the kind of work that we do to just think, oh, this is a cool design, this is great, and be caught up just in design for design's sake, but it has to support a performance.
The makeup or the prosthetics and the head or the body, whatever you're creating, does not do the work for you. A lot of people think that you put it on and it does the work for you. It doesn't. You have to be able to emote and bring the character, of course, out of the character.
That was a stirring reply.
He would bring in the actors, or oftentimes the actors were already brought in at that point while we're still designing, to bring them in for head casts. Sometimes involved taking casts of their teeth, or maybe sending them off to the contact lens technician, have them fit for contact lenses if we'd want to go in that direction, to change their eye colors, which is something I always like to do. I think it just takes it that much more away from being a human being.
Unfortunately, while all answers are replies, not all replies are answers.
And from the molds of the actors' faces, and then we would start doing sculptures in clay of the different designs, which oftentimes were multiple pieces. Like sometimes it'd be a back of the head, ears, and a face, and hands on top of it.
It's a whole process of casting and then laying in a mold, building a mold inside of it, and shooting the mold with the rubber.
After that, it's just a matter of trimming the pieces, preparing them for pre-painting.
What do you understand now that you did not understand before?
The intricate painting that they do is absolutely unreal.
Invariably, we're stealing some kind of paint scheme from a reptile. They're very intricate. Have spots or certain patterns. Like the narns, I think, are a very good example of that. There's this kind of almost frog-like kind of spot pattern that's going on their heads. Use it almost to replace what you would imagine hair to be. These paint schemes ended up being very intricate, so that kind of necessitated doing as much as possible ahead of time, because once we're on set and have the actor in the makeup chair, we can't really spend 6 or 7 hours making them up. So we try to minimize that as much as possible to cut down on the makeup time so we can accomplish them in like 2 hours. 2 hours is kind of like the tops that they were looking for.
I hope you have not been waiting long.
3, 4 days. I sleep on the 5th day, return on the 6th.
Today we're going to show you how we're going to turn Marshall Teague here into a narn, starting with this foam latex appliance. I'm going to put the head on now, and I think you should probably help in this part of the victimization. Okay. Does that feel more familiar? I guess we must have split them, I don't know.
Perfect.
I'm going to start gluing the face on, and generally what we do is we start from the middle of the face instead of gluing it all on at once. And I'm just going to do a little bead of glue down here. So once gluing the center part down, then I start working from the center outward and continue gluing the face down in like 3 or 4 sections at a time. So when I'm gluing it down, I try to kind of do it in a certain balance, because you don't want to glue one whole side of it down and then find out that something's off kilter here. I think the gluing of the edges and dealing with this is, in my opinion, probably the most time-consuming part. So right now I'm just powdering up the edges of the appliance here. It helps me to see if there's any other little lumps or edges that I might need to try to work or finesse a little bit more. Right now I'm going to start applying what's called Pax paint, which is kind of half adhesive, half makeup. It's like the same glue that we use to glue the appliance down, we mix into acrylic paint, and it's really good for blending the edges off because it has a certain kind of thickness to it, and it does help to obscure the edge even more. So much of the materials that we use, we really look for and try to develop stuff that holds up like to the rigors of shooting, because you could easily, well, be working 14, 16-hour days, which is par for the course for television. And you don't necessarily want to spend, your whole day chasing around and doing touch-ups. The fun part for me, I think, is when you do start putting the coloring on. That's when the character starts to come together. I'm going to start using these makeup palettes that have these special different, it's kind of like one of those watercolor thingies, but with the grease paint makeup that comes in kind of a wide variety of flesh tones and some primaries. So I'm going to start using some of these colors to help match it in. This is when it all comes together.
Oh, this is the true me.
Yeah. So now I'm painting in the spot patterns to blend it in, watching little by little as the character comes together. Invariably, the actors also, little by little, usually gets into the part as you get into the stage too. The mouth's kind of always the touchiest part because there's so much movement. So you really got to make sure that it's nicely sealed. So I'm going to start putting some of the last details around the eyes and the rest of the face, kind of in the home stretch now. A little bit of narn eyeshadow and mascara, so to speak. And then I try to blend in some of the, there's some like lines and wrinkles on the makeup itself. I'll try to connect that with the makeup into his features. And I think the eyes are the most critical part to draw attention to, and oftentimes when you have such an overwhelming face, it's too easy for the eyes to get lost. So I try to make sure through some either coloring that's dark draws your attention back to the eyes, or oftentimes the contact lenses. It really helps to draw your attention to them, and that's, for me, one of the most important things to watch in an actor is how they're expressive with their eyes and what they do with that. For the most part, the spot pattern is designed to really kind of be like more like the hair, where it frames the face, and I think it'd be too distracting if there's too many patterns or dots in the middle of the face. Now I'm adding on some gel to give it kind of the narn's a characteristic sheen, being that it's kind of a reptilian skin, though technically, according to Joe, narns are marsupials, not amphibians. But the skin type's kind of patterned after like a frog or something like that, so we like to give it a nice kind of shininess. It also helps to take some of the powder off that we used while setting the makeup. It also makes the colors really stand out and become richer, I think. The final touches are the characteristic red lenses that we use for the narns.
Let me tap them out here. Just
Yeah,
a little bit.
we'll get the bubbles off from underneath them. Okay, and that is the finishing touch now, a complete narn.
It's good to see you again.
Talon was something that spoke and thought deeply.
I carry my sword in my hand. You carry yours in your heart and in your mind. As I see it, that gives you a 2-to-1 advantage in arms. Be fair, Citizen Jakar.
Then there's the other element of doing makeup that I think oftentimes is overlooked, and that's the removal process. I mean, it's kind of reminds me of guys liking to brag about fast cars. You know, how fast a car goes is only one part of the equation. The other one is how fast it stops.
And I was very honored, you know, to be a part of B5. To have a character with the strength of Talon was fabulous. It's a wrap.
Take care. Bye.